Hello, and welcome to the Bot Nirvana podcast, where we dive into all things software automation. I'm your host, Nandan Mullakra. While I'm not podcasting, I write articles on nandan.info. I hope you enjoyed the show. Let's get right into it. Our guest today is Amol Rajmani. He leads the Digital Automation Center of Excellence at DuPont, a large specialty manufacturing company based out of Wilmington, USA. Amol and team has built a truly remarkable automation program with processes and technologies worth emulating. So let's listen in as Amol describes the various aspects of their automation journey. Hi, Amol. Welcome to the Bot Nirvana podcast. Can we start with a quick intro about yourself?
Yeah, thanks, Nandan. Thanks for having me. It is very exciting to be here. So I'm based out of Greater Philadelphia area, and I lead the Digital Automation Center of Excellence for a very large global specialty products manufacturing company. And I've been working in the IT industry for over 24 years now. I did my engineering in electronics in 1997, and early in my career, uh, in 2000 or 2001, I got a chance to work in the Silicon Valley with many different startups. Then I got a chance to launch a mobile application for a very large bank in India way back in 2007 when there was no iOS or Android. Like you can imagine those kind of mobile phones and applications then, right? So I got a chance to launch that. Worked in the IT industry, service industry, or services companies for over 20 years. Most of my career worked in a large investment bank. I also loved working in technology all the time, right? So I explored a lot of different technologies and tools, and I got introduced to RPA in early 2018. And since then, I've been working in RPA and other emerging technologies.
So you mentioned you're part of the digital automation program. That's an interesting name there, right? Like people call various names, but like hyper automation, intelligent automation, digital automation. That's an interesting name. So can you tell us about your digital automation program?
Yeah. So digital automation, we call it digital automation because we, did not want to call it robotic process automation that, basically gives different message to different people. So we started using digital automation, and digital automation is when we combine different tools and technologies together to automate something using digital technologies. That's how it's a digital automation. But we started our digital automation program in 2019. Like we have this centralized digital automation center of excellence, which supports all regions, all business units, and support functions. In little over like 2 years now, we have about 100 bots developed and in production. But initially, like if when we started, we had a lot of challenges, and it took us about 8 months to get our first bot into production. So like we had challenges right from like having good infrastructure. We had combination of on-prem and cloud together, different data centers. So we had a lot of challenges from that. Our all legacy applications used hard token multi-factor authentication. And that was another challenge to get bypass of multi-factor authentication on all of these applications. So it took us time. Also, like building a good team, like that was a big challenge, like being in 2019 2020. So that was another challenge we had, but we built a really good team now. uh, we have bots with almost all business units and support functions today and across all regions. So that's one probably good achievement in 2 years. uh, we have different awareness and training programs internally that created like many automation champions or ambassadors, I would call it. And we train people with all these different tools, like small programs, so that they are aware and they can actually evaluate, they can create ideas on their own. They can qualify those automations, saying which one is like more value added automation versus like other automations. And we created like hundreds of reusable objects in over 2 years now. and that has reduced a lot of cost for us, like development cost. Like we used to have like a huge cost of development. Now it's like almost one fifth of that original cost. So we achieved that over the period. And earlier it used to take like lot of time for reviews, like internal reviews. Like for example, there is a risk assessment or infosec or something, right? It used to take months to get those reviews. Today if you see, like we also improved those processes, like those are review process or architecture reviews. So it today it takes just hours or couple of days to get everything. So I think if I see like our journey, like we started with very simple automations and now we are moving towards our hyper automation. And we are also working on like creating more citizen developers within our organization, so that we can support scaled automation programs. And hyper automation is, again, like we'll probably talk more about that, but we are adding a lot of new tools, we are adding intelligence. But this is where like we are today, in less than or about 2 years in our journey.
Yeah, and that's quite impressive. Actually, I was talking to a few people today morning as part of the community, and they were sharing how they took like 2 3 years, some even 5 years to get it right. So I think 8 months is great, and I think you already built a very structured program out there, right? Where you have people, you actually got your champions on board, and that's truly commendable what you have done, I think. And you said within 2 years you are where every department has got some bots, right?
Yeah.
So within that program, where do you find a lot of resonance or traction where people are picking up a lot of automation? Where where all do you see this having some exciting prospects within the
Yeah.
organization?
So when we started with our, I think, support functions. Like I think most of their organizations, they start with finance or sourcing, and that's
Right.
how we started, right? Like we started
Mm.
with finance and sourcing. But in last 2 years time frame, or 1.5 years, like I think with the COVID challenges, right? Like we have seen a lot of challenges in customer service, we have seen challenges in supply chain. And that's where I think a lot of business units, like they came like forward and asked us to do a lot of automation. So we see a lot of ideas from customer service area, logistics, supply chain, especially because that's where I think most of the challenges are. And we did a lot of automations in that area compared to like where we started with finance sourcing, but they are way behind today, like compared to our BUs. But BUs understand our automation programs, and customer services where like we had a lot of challenges there, and we still have, right? And we are working with a lot of different groups within our organization to see how we can automate. Like few examples, right? Like customer service, we have thousands of customers, right? And each one of them, they have their own way of like sending orders to us. Like some of them send orders through EDS, and there is no problem there, right? It automatically comes and we process those. But many of them, they have their own customer portals, where our CSRs or customer service representatives, they need to go and download orders
Mm.
manually. And these are customer portals, right? There is no API, REST API, there is no integration available. So people usually go log in, download their orders, then process it in our legacy systems. And plus, once we order it, we also need to go back and give them tracking information. We need to give them order confirmations, we need to give them invoice information. So there is a lot of back and forth, like transactions between customer portals and our internal systems, and everything is being done manually today. And we started doing automations in that space. And there's still a lot to do in that space, but we started, and people have realized that RPA is probably the best solution, because since there are no standard typical integrations like REST APIs or anything available there, right? So it's basically you have to do automations using user interface, and it's working out really well. So we are now like prioritizing which customer portals are being used most, and we are going to automate those. Similarly, in supply chain, if you see like orders are coming in, like there is, once we get orders, there is a order confirmation, there are delivery blocks, there are credit blocks, there are like looking at like what's available in inventory versus when those will be delivered. So there are a lot of things people do it manually today, and we started automating in that order review and order confirmation process. So we did a lot of like small automations in that, and those are very high value automations. Like even if we automate very simple things like where we have inbound outbound delivery date updates, there are hundreds of delivery dates being updated
Right.
every day, right? And it's a very high value
Mhm.
automations. Similarly, logistics portals, like there are portals where you need to get information about your orders, like tracking information about your orders. There is a proof of delivery from like a FedEx or a UPS. You need to go and download those, and unless and until you provide those proof of delivery, you don't get paid
Right.
from your customers, right? And these are all automated. These are all manual today.
Mhm.
And you definitely need to automate such small use cases, which adds a lot of value. So we started, and that's where we have seen a lot of traction. But like now we are again uh, uh, going back to our support functions, where like finance and logistics or procurement and HR. Especially HR has again a lot of different use cases where they want to automate, and we started automating those. And like I think there is a lot of value being delivered in that space also.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I think some great use cases there, and people are seeing the benefits, right?
Yeah.
So you mentioned value. So how do you measure this value, and how do you come up with this business case to continue this program?
Okay. So for value, I think we have very interesting concept. Like I think I don't know if other people use it, but it's a path to value. We have really a very well documented process of like calculating value. So what we do is like we first look at what is the value this automation is going to deliver, and based on that we prioritize. We do not prioritize based on like other factors. So value is always like first factor to prioritize, and we have very healthy pipeline. So when we look at like value, that's when we actually build that business case. We get all approvals, we start automation. Once value is delivered or that automation is done and put it into production, that's when we call it like value delivered, and we actually track it to value realized, from
Okay.
delivered to realized. So and everything is like hard dollar value calculations, so because that's what is like tracked. We review it with our finance team, like CFO organization. So this is being tracked at a leadership level. They know what's automation total value delivered, right, by each program. And we also have target based on like values, like how much we can we should deliver it this year, next year was and then we plan it according. So this calculation model is like very well defined templates, very well defined like models, like for each digital program has their own value tracking model, right? Like for RPA, it's mostly on like how many transactions you have, how much time it takes, and based on that. But if you look at like chatbot has its own calculation mechanism, versus artificial intelligence machine learning has its own calculation mechanism. So we have a really well defined model to calculate this value uh, within our organization, and this is being reviewed by different people, and there is a sign off taken from our CFO organization as well on this value. So it is a proven and very well defined model, I would say.
Okay. Okay. Excellent. And so you said it's hard dollar value. Do you
Yeah.
also track the soft benefits, like compliance improvement and things like that?
Yes, yeah, we do like each automation program has this hard value and soft value, like both calculations.
Okay.
And we look at like how we each automation is helping people, right? So there were like examples when we started this program, right? Few people came forward and asked us like can you automate my tasks, because I have not been able to take my vacation or time off for many years because of this automation, right?
Okay.
And this is a good thing, because they realize that these automations are going to help them, right, automate these mundane tasks, right? So people came forward, asked like, okay, automate this month end process or beginning of month process, and give me some time, so that I can take some time off. And we did those small automation where it's a report reconciliation, or some inventory reconciliation or similar activities. And people took those automations, and they are owners of these processes, so they basically see what bot is doing, how bot is tracking exceptions and everything. So they are basically owners of everything, and now they are like very confident, and they know that that I can take vacation or time off, because I know what is working for me. And and they can also focus on more value added tasks, right? So that's another. There are many other, right? Like many cases, like people have seen, like especially in say order entry, right? Like people, if even if people make like small mistakes, it has huge impact in downline processes, right? So basically they said, okay, if a bot is working for me, the bot is not going to make any mistakes, because it's more of like copy paste things. So they started realizing, and those kind of soft benefits, we cannot actually calculate those benefits, and we try to calculate, but it's very difficult, right? You can actually calculate into like, or translate that into hard dollar. But again, there are a lot of SOX compliance related processes where people used to do sampling before, like 10% sampling, 25% sampling. And now since we have bot, we basically do audits or compliance on 100% of transactions. So earlier, if you look at like sampling versus today, complete set of transactions, which is a great benefit to businesses. So
Right.
they are seeing such lot of like benefits, soft benefits.
So how is it working? Like you are part of IT and the businesses approach you, or are you a COE? How is your automation program structured?
Okay, so ours is a centralized center of excellence, which is basically part of our IT organization.
Okay.
But we work with all business units and support functions. So what we did is we created automation champions or digital champions in each of these groups. So we work very closely with them, and they have like a lot of IT background, like they know how these technologies work, and they know their own business process as well. So we don't have to basically understand that business process ourselves, right? Because those people, they are representatives in BU, they understand that business process. So basically they know where to go and automate, which is a good automation use case. They know where to like put a chatbot, they know where to like put more intelligence best programs, right? So basically we work with BUs to do this automation. They create their own pipeline. They also do their evaluation of use cases, saying which one is a really good value added, and versus not value added. And basically they prioritize, and they come to us saying, these are like, this is my pipeline. Can you automate these things for us, right? So we have a team of developers within COE. We also have a support organization which basically supports everything which is in production. So we have this like created entire program of like skilled people, so that BUs and functions, they don't have to hire developers or support people. They don't have to maintain infrastructure, because there are a lot of complications here. Right, as I said, like MFA versus reviews, and there are many things, right? So we started like maintaining everything within COE. But now again, like we as I mentioned earlier, like we are moving towards citizen developer program, and now we have instructor led programs where we are training business users to do their own automations. But again, like we will be maintaining this infrastructure. We have best practices, we have common reusable objects which people can use it. We will govern this entire program, but we will enable other people to do automations on their own. So that's how like we are gonna move forward. Like we are, our initial vision of like our entire automation, like we start but enable users to do automations on their own, like in it's kind of a self-service model. So that's where we are moving towards, but everything is like centralized today.
I like that whole organic flow, right? Like where you made champions for the businesses, and now we are slowly moving them to citizen development and more of, even able to create some automations on their own, and still you keeping the control and the centralized management. So it's really great. I think so. That's a great flow. So in terms of technology, how do you see this flowing now? Like mentioned earlier, the hyper automation and where you're going. So, like, what all technologies do you see adding? You did mention chatbots in between, but what all other technologies like AI are you adding so that this becomes a more robust program and can cover more use cases?
Yeah. So our hyper automation, like, we call it like right from process mining or process intelligence or process excellence, right? Like,
Right.
that's what like our foundation is. Like, it's gonna basically look at all business processes and look for where we can actually improve. And when process mining works for us, it basically is gonna tell us where you can automate, where you can train your people better so that they can manage their processes better. So that's kind of a foundation for us, right? And then basic core RPA, that's one. RPA working with chatbot, RPA working with artificial intelligence, machine learning. We are adding decision intelligence, which is more of a decision making a tool, which is automated machine learning tool, so that we can automate simple use cases where decisions needs to be taken by like bots. So we are adding more intelligence to that. Our program also includes hyper automation. In hyper automation is basically your analytics, like more of Power BI,
Okay.
and we are also looking at like search analytics tools, where basically we again enable users to, uh, instead of building dashboards, they basically search data, and that creates dashboards automatically, right? So we are looking at right from process mining to creating dashboards, like end to end, like using a lot of different tools and technologies. Again, I forgot to mention about document processing, which is again a very
Right.
very key program for us, like because we see thousands of documents are being processed manually today, and we definitely would like to like automate as much as we can using intelligent document processing. So that's another tool we are very actively pursuing. One more concept is about human in the loop.
Right.
Like this is a concept, but again you can use a lot of like simple tools like Microsoft Teams, Outlook, or you can use like for Blue Prism we use like Interact. So there are various tools for human in the loop. Like we started doing human in the loop, I think 2 years back, right? Like just sending notifications, like exception notifications on Microsoft Teams. Like people get notified on Microsoft Teams itself directly. Now, like we started taking inputs from users from Microsoft Teams itself. We
Oh,
send a card on Microsoft Teams, and they basically enter information and send it back to us, like back to bot, and bot takes it and then process it. So I see like this combination of all these different tools and technologies, is basically hyper automation. That's what we have defined here, and
right.
that's what we would like to achieve.
So I think both from a technology perspective, I think you've got the right mix of technologies, as well as the way your programs are structured and how you're evolving. It looks great. So, though I just wanted to ask one thing, like if since we have gone through this program, been 2 years, and if you were to start all over again, would you do any of these things a bit differently?
Yes. So, few things probably, I think, from our experience, right? One is, I think, looking at end-to-end business process, right? And look at that holistic view of that business process instead of looking at like, small areas of automation. I think that would definitely be a different thing. Like if we had to start it again, maybe we would get people who understand that end-to-end business process and see where we can automate, right? Other thing is like developing talent. That's again a very very key thing, right? Like last 2 years we have seen shortage of like skilled resources, right? And I think when we start any of such programs, probably I would look at like how do I develop that uh, skill internally, or like have that skill so that I can support a scaled automation program. That's one thing I think I would look at like at the beginning, like when we start this program. So I would say like not many things, but I think it's more about like talent, having right support organization in place from the beginning. Like I think we took months to establish this support organization, like to do our run and maintain of our bots, right? But I think having that run and maintain from the beginning would definitely help. So I would look at like little These are not again technical things, because technical things evolve and you can always add new tools and technologies. But basic, I think, governance and process wise, I think, that's what I would look at little differently if I have to start it again.
So the talent part, do you think the citizen developers can alleviate that problem a bit?
Yes. Yeah, so that's definitely one of the objectives, to have that to develop more and more developers internally. And again, one more thing is, there are a lot of small automations which we think if we do it, skilled resources do it, it's probably going to be more expensive for them. And if they know, they probably can think about their own automations. It actually enables them to think about like automations on their own way, and they basically
Correct.
automate their own task, right? So basically we are creating this pool of resources internally.
Mhm.
uh, we are also automating more and more programs, right from even simple automations to very complex. So it's basically, yes, that citizen developer is one way of getting more talent internally, to support this program.
So, it's very exciting space right now, right? And you did mention process mining, even the whole task mining, process discovery space, and then the automation. So, people talking about there'll be an automated process discovery, automated automation itself. So, how do you see this evolving over the next probably 3 years?
Yeah, I think a lot of things are happening in this space. Like in
Right,
RPA itself, I think there are lot of new tools and technologies. Like every day, some or the other new tool comes up, right? So,
right,
but we are like very focused on specific tools. And if you look at like RPA, we have one tool. For say document processing, we have one tool. So we have selected one tool in each of these areas. And definitely a lot of things are evolving. Like today, even process mining, right? Like process mining is going to tell you where to improve.
right,
It looks at like your end-to-end business process and tells you where to improve. uh, those process mining has also becoming now process intelligent tools, right? Because they are also automating things using their tool. So
right.
that is also happening. Like process capture, like capture tool also is coming up with like, okay, I capture also give you a code. There are tools available today in the market which basically captures your business process. You just record that business process, and at the end basically it generates a code for your RPA tool. And that automates like 30-40% of your automation by default, right? You just have to add more exceptions to that, and do it more defect free, basically process, right? So I see a lot of automations happening, even in even in RPA itself, right? You don't have to write a lot of code, like a lot of reusable components, a lot of interfaces are happening. Intelligent document processing is another, I think, for next 3 years, that's basically a major tool for us, right? Like I think a lot of documents you can automate, a lot of processes you can automate. But I think next 3 years, I think digital I would say for digital, I think process mining is the one like which is going to drive a lot of things. That's what I see. Like that's a foundation. It's going to tell us like how, what technology you need to choose, and you also need to add a lot of intelligence to your automation programs. You need to work very closely with your humans, like business users, and to make it more successful. Because uh, today, like bots work on in silos. They just raise exceptions and they tell you go and fix it, right? But
Right.
you need to have that collaboration between humans and bots to make it like more successful. And I think that's going to increase over the period, and it's going to become like very easy, like how you communicate, how you basically get inputs from users. So that's probably going to be like more easy down the line. But I think you'll have to work very closely with humans to make automation programs very successful. Um, but technology is evolving, right? Like evolving every day. Like you just have to keep looking for the right tool for your automation program and start using that tool. And we don't shy away from trying new tools and technologies. And even if they don't work, like we just decommission. But we try a lot of new tools and technologies ourselves.
Oh, okay, great, great. So, how do you keep up with this ever-changing technology? Any tips?
I think it's one is like focused, right? Like, that's very key thing, right? Like, you need to know your like vision, where you are going,
Mhm.
your roadmap, like how you evolve, and how do you reach your market, right? Like, basically, we have this like, roadmap for next 2 to 3 years,
Right.
to see like how we want to, go there, right? Like in that space. And very focused, right? Like, which tool you want to use it, right? There are so many things it's gonna distract you, like if you start like, going and start using like more and more things, but stay very very focused on tools and technologies. That's very key. And look at your vision roadmap. That's basically a key thing for your automation programs.
So thank you so much, Amol, for spending time today. Some great insights there on what you're doing with digital automation. So if people want to connect with you, what's the best way to connect with you?
I think LinkedIn probably is my best way to reach out to me, and I have my email address there, so people can send an email to me.
Okay.
Uh, yeah, and I will try to respond to that, like if they have any questions or something. But LinkedIn is the best way.
Thanks, Amol. Thank you so much for being on the Bot Nirvana podcast. It was great having you. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for joining the Bot Nirvana podcast. Appreciate if you can leave a review on iTunes or Stitcher. Catch the show notes on botnirvana.org. While you're there, feel free to explore more automation ideas, tutorials, tools, and more. See you next time.